Not as big as it used to be.
Well, yeah.
That's right.
But yeah,
That's why we work for a small company.
yeah, we went with a few big exceptions. Okay. So, you know, absolute fundamental shift in our economic structure. Yeah, which gentleman was saying is absolutely amazing, exciting. But I guess what I'm fishing at is what you're doing. Is that going to be the spark? Do you see this as realistically the spark that's going to get us, for example, help us get out of the recession? Is this really enough to get things going? What's the real impact here?
Can I make a big company comment?
Yeah, yeah.
I think all this talk about small business is very good, but I think there needs to be a balance. If you look at, you talk about the information economy and the new economy, about 30% of the value of a vehicle now is in electronics and software. And Henry Ford made this comment that automotive is the industry of industries. We buy the stuff that other industries make, glass, steel, now electronics, software, things like that. I think there's a place for enhancing small business, but I think being engaged with the large companies also has a great deal of leverage. If we find a way to get an idea into Ford, it goes into a $160 billion company. It can be disseminated, and really there's a multiplier effect. So I don't think one's more important than the other. I think it's healthy for the economy to be balanced because a lot of these small companies sell to Ford, Eric's being a perfect example of that. So I think you need some big companies as customers for these small ones, and you need a healthier base of the small companies. But for us, it's working.
So I was listening to your presentation, I was thinking about the research triangle in North Carolina. How does what you're doing compare or contrast with what's been going on there for quite a long time?
So very favorably, again, there's this construct now called the University Research Corridor. Some of you may have heard about the URC, which is Michigan State, Wayne State, and the University of Michigan. And now for the last 2 years, Veronica, we've been commissioning a study that looks at the economic impact of those three universities collectively on the state and the region, and compares it to places like the Research Triangle or out in the Bay Area or Massachusetts. And it's amazing how well it actually stacks up. I don't have the exact data in the top of my head, but there is a website for the University Research Corridor where that study is, copies of the full study are published. And, it gets into the actual payrolls of the universities themselves, and then the spin-out activity, and the suppliers that we fund to supply what we need, and then the multiplier effects, et cetera. But to answer your question, from what I've seen, it compares very favorably. I think even maybe more of an economic impact than the Research Triangle in North Carolina, and I think it's right in there with the MIT, and probably a little bit behind the Stanford Berkeley thing. But any other questions?
One of the challenges I saw when I came out in '92 from engineering is, I'd been on the solar car team, had all these great ideas, and worked with Larry Page. So he's gone on to do a few things.
Should have had working with him.
Yeah, could have. And then kind of went with the large company, Ford Motor Company, and at that point in time, solar car or solar technology and everything else wasn't as big of an opportunity. And seeing that University of Michigan just won the Solar Car Challenge just last year, I mean, we've got these great individuals. Number one, we don't give them enough credit. I would love to have that car sitting out in front of the Capitol up here. And
let's do that. Right?
I'd love to do that. But I thought if we had a competition, you talk about venture capital. If we set up a program where we'll put $500,000, $1 million of the state of Michigan money, and basically could pay 5 students $50,000 a year plus the incubator fees, with the thought being that if it becomes a viable business, there's some sort of payback where it becomes a self-funding kind of initiative. But take these young kids that haven't been conformed to what can't be done or what has been done, but have these great ideas, and give them kind of this challenge that they fight over in terms of trying to go up with the best project, but then allow them to have that year or two after college to truly focus on creating a business with, you know, restrictions that if it is successful, it stays in Michigan, and that there is, you know, some sort of reinvestment with back into that program, and not certain.
So I think these are great ideas. I think, and kind of alludes to the answer to your question, the single biggest potential for the impact of the university on this region and this state is the students. The university is going to do what it's going to do. We'll do our research. I think we can help companies like Coherix and Ford, et cetera. But it's really the power of the students coming out, you know, these very bright, smart, motivated people that we're starting to change the programs internally to give much more of an entrepreneurial focus and almost permission to these students to say risk-taking is not bad. And I think, you know, like it or not in this state, I think we have had that mentality for too long. We are, probably the single biggest world example of successful entrepreneurism, right? The automotive industry 100 years ago was hugely, fabulously successful. So successful, we created these huge behemoths, and then everyone got kind of lazy, right? It's like, well, okay, we're doing all right now. No need to really take any risks, and I'm not disparaging Ford, Ed, sorry, maybe it sounds like that.
I don't feel discouraged.
But I think
It's on our new product.
but even the Ford Motors right now need, right, that kind of vision and people who are willing to take some risks and try something new and you know, get the newest, coolest thing out in the street. And, you know, but we need some programs, we need some funding, we need some mechanisms for students who have that vision or that hope or that dream that they can do it and do it in the state of Michigan. I mean, Larry Page has famously said, he could not have done what he did in the state of Michigan. As much as he loves the state of Michigan, he had to go to the Bay Area to make Google happen. We got to start creating a climate where our bright kids don't have to leave to go make that happen. Now we're lucky. Luckily, Larry Page has brought, you know, a big operation for Google back to the state, because you do have that kind of commitment from, you know, students at the universities and the state in general. You know, I'm always struck by how loyal Michigan people are. But we need to give them the tools and the resources to have that success right here, instead of having to leave and go do it.
Yes, during the debate about the stimulus package, I was kind of confused that where are we not making the best argument for the state of Michigan for our automobile industry? There were some southern senators who didn't see the importance of Michigan. They just saw it as Michigan. They didn't see it as the United States, that if the automobile companies fall, it's going to affect all of America, like I said, the glass, the steel, the rubber, everything that goes into making automobiles. Where are we falling down, and where do you fall down philosophically on why are we not making the best argument that it's not just a local, that the automobile is not just here locally from Michigan, but it affects the entire country?
Yeah, again, I think we collectively, maybe as an auto industry, but as a state as well, have fallen down on really making the case for ourselves. I mean, what the auto industry has done for this country is phenomenal. I mean, it created the middle class, and it continues to be. People don't realize the single, probably most fundamental industry to the economy, as Ed said, the industry of industries. But I think we just fell on our faces flat, right? We did not make that case. We're apologetic as Midwesterners in general. I think we're kind of meek and shy and apologetic. Oh, we must have screwed up. Sorry about that. You know, and that's part of what we're trying to change in our student body, right? Is you don't have to be like, if you've got a good idea, go proclaim it to the world. I mean, this is where like the MITs and stuff are famous, right? They're way over-promising all the time and over, you know, playing up what they've done. I'm not saying we necessarily go to that far on the pendulum, but we need to be less apologetic for what we've accomplished and what we have here and how critical the auto industry is. And again, I agree with Ed. The auto industry is still a vibrant, critical industry. I wouldn't count it out yet. You know, there's in the technology. So I agree. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I share the frustration that I don't think we get our case out very effectively.
Can you share any specific examples related specifically to energy, either battery development, solar, something that for you of them is specifically contributing to trying to wean our dependence on foreign oil?
Yeah, so we just announced a few weeks ago a very large battery initiative. Ed, cover your ears, with General Motors. And we have one of our faculty, actually Anne-Marie Sastry, a key faculty member in this area in the College of Engineering, has also worked with Ford in this area, but she has a startup company called Sakti 3, which is going to be very critical, I think, to developing the batteries we need